Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling something pretty big, I think.
Oh, yeah.
The seventh step prayer.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one, and it's essential to the 12 steps. But I gotta be honest,
Mm-hmm.
I've always found it a little bit
Cryptic.
cryptic is a good word for it.
Yeah,
You know, maybe if we start by just hearing it out loud, that'll give us a good place to start.
sure.
Okay, so I'm going to read the seventh step prayer here.
Okay.
My Creator, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Wow.
Right? Heavy stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. Bondage of self, thy will.
Yeah.
It's powerful language.
It is, and it's not very subtle, is it?
No, not at all. And I think that's intentional.
Yeah.
Bondage of self that really gets at the idea that we can be held back by our own ego,
Oh, yeah.
by our own self-reliance.
Mm-hmm.
Thy will, on the other hand, points to something bigger than ourselves.
It's like admitting we don't always know what's best,
Yeah.
even for ourselves.
It is, and that could be a tough pill to swallow.
It can be. It really can.
But the seventh step isn't saying to just erase your own will. It's more about getting your will in line with a greater purpose.
So you're saying it's not about erasing our own desires, but
Well-
learning to kind of align them with something bigger.
Exactly.
And I guess that brings us to the idea of surrender, which is huge in the seventh step.
Huge.
And again, it seems kind of counterintuitive at first,
Oh, yeah.
but maybe surrendering control is actually the key too.
Finding true freedom.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's a paradox, isn't it?
It is.
And it's a paradox that you see in all kinds of wisdom traditions,
Yeah,
Stoicism, Eastern spiritual traditions.
it's everywhere.
Yeah. And in the context of the seventh step, I think surrender means acknowledging that we can't always force things.
Right.
It's about humility, not weakness, but just recognizing our limitations.
Right. Humility. That's a tough one for a lot of us,
It is.
including me.
Oh, yeah.
How can we actually work on being more humble?
Well, that's a great question.
Mm.
Some people find that mindfulness meditation helps.
Oh, interesting.
That can help you become more aware of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that can lead to being more humble. It's about looking at your thoughts and actions without judging yourself.
Mm.
Okay.
So it's about making space for self-reflection
Yes.
and realizing that we all have room for improvement.
Exactly. And that kind of self-reflection often leads to another big part of the seventh step,
Okay, what's that?
facing our character flaws.
Ah, yeah, the purge me of every single character flaw line.
Right. That one always gets me too.
It's intense. Like, where do you even begin with that? What even is a character flaw?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's a question that sparks a lot of debate within 12-step communities.
Wait.
Oh, yeah. Some people see character flaws as like ingrained parts of your personality
Okay.
that are just inherently bad, but others see them as learned behaviors,
Okay.
things you can unlearn and replace with something healthier.
Oh.
I think the most important thing is whether you can be honest with yourself about the things that might be holding you back.
I see. So it's not about beating yourself up for your shortcomings,
No, not at all.
but about noticing patterns that might be preventing you from growing.
You got it.
And is this something we're supposed to do on our own?
Well, it's important to remember that you're not alone in this. The seventh step actually encourages you to reach out for help.
Okay.
Talk to a sponsor, a therapist,
A good friend.
someone you trust.
Exactly.
And I guess that goes back to what we were saying about humility,
It does.
realizing that we need help from other people.
Right.
That's a big step.
It is a big step towards growth.
I'm starting to see how this prayer is about so much more than just asking for a higher power to fix our problems.
Yeah.
It's like an active process of self-discovery
Absolutely.
and transformation.
He's hit the nail on the head. It's not a passive thing.
It's a call to action.
It is an invitation to start a journey of growth and healing.
And knowing that we don't have to do it alone.
Wow, this has already been so insightful.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the language of the prayer, the idea of surrender and control, the importance of humility, and the challenge of facing our character flaws. But I think what I'm really curious about is how people reconcile the idea of a higher power with their own belief systems,
That's a fantastic question.
especially if they don't follow any traditional religion.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Uh,
And one we're going to dive into right after the break. So yeah, the higher power thing can be a real hurdle for a lot of people.
It's definitely been something I've wrestled with over the years,
Yeah.
especially if you haven't grown up with religion or,
Right.
maybe you've moved away from it.
Hmm.
I used to have this very specific image in my head when I thought about a higher power,
Sure, yeah.
like something out of a religious text.
I get it.
But as I've learned more about different spiritual traditions and philosophies,
Yeah.
my idea of it has really changed.
That's awesome.
Mm.
I think that's a pretty common experience.
Hmm.
One of the cool things about the seventh step is that it doesn't tell you what your higher power has to be
That's true.
or how you should connect with it.
Hmm.
It just says that there's something greater than ourselves out there.
It's more about being open to something beyond our own understanding.
Right. It's about recognizing a force, a wisdom that's bigger than our limited human perspective.
Like maybe nature or the universe
Exactly.
or even music and art.
Absolutely.
I've even heard people talk about love as their higher power
Yeah.
or truth
Mm-hmm.
or just like the energy of creation itself.
It really is about finding what resonates with you.
Yeah.
Something that inspires you to let go of your ego.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace that humility and surrender.
It's funny, even scientists are starting to talk about how everything is interconnected,
Totally.
like quantum entanglement and the holographic universe.
Yeah, it's like what used to be fringe science is now becoming more mainstream.
Yeah.
And I think the seventh step is kind of inviting us to embrace that mystery,
Oh, I like that.
to be okay with not having all the answers and to be open to new ways of seeing things.
So it's not about following a strict set of beliefs,
No.
but about expanding your mind,
Yes.
connecting with that sense of awe and wonder.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating is that this whole process of connecting with something bigger than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it can have a real impact on your life.
Like, how so? I mean, I can see how it might bring peace or purpose,
Sure.
but how does it actually translate into changes you can see and feel?
Well, think about it. When you surrender to something bigger,
Mm-hmm.
you're basically letting go of fear and anxiety.
Oh, wow.
You're not weighed down by this idea that you have to control everything.
That makes sense.
And that freedom can be incredibly empowering.
So instead of worrying and trying to micromanage everything,
Right.
you can focus on taking action
Yeah.
aligned with your values.
Exactly. And when you operate from that place of trust and surrender,
Mm-hmm.
you often find that things just flow more easily.
It's like you're tapping into this source of strength
Yes.
and wisdom.
That's always there.
That's always there, but you can only access it when you let go of your ego.
Such a great analogy. And it's not just about personal growth.
Really?
No. This shift in perspective can affect everything.
Like what?
Your relationships, your work, how you interact with the world around you.
Oh.
When you're not so focused on your own ego,
Mm-hmm.
you naturally become more compassionate and empathetic.
So you're a better friend, partner,
Yeah.
family member,
Exactly.
coworker.
That leads to more fulfilling relationships,
Mhm.
more collaborative work environments,
Mhm.
a greater sense of connection to your community and to the planet as a whole.
Wow. So the seventh step is really about recognizing our interconnectedness
Yes.
and embracing our responsibility to contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
You got it. You've
Yeah.
hit on a really crucial point. The seventh step asks us to think about how our choices affect other people. It's an invitation to live more intentionally
Mm-hmm.
and to use our freedom and clarity to make a positive impact.
So by surrendering to something larger than ourselves,
Yeah.
we can actually find a deeper sense of purpose and meaning.
It's like the paradox of finding yourself by losing yourself.
I love that. And it leads us to another key aspect of the seventh step,
Okay.
the idea of right action.
Ah, yes, right action. Now, that's a topic we're going to explore a little further as we continue our deep dive into the seven-step prayer.
Okay, so we're back, and we're talking about this idea of right action in the seventh-step prayer.
Right action.
And I feel like this is where things get real, you know?
It is. It's where the
Like-
rubber meets the road.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been doing all this reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time to actually put things into practice.
So how do we know what right action even is? Is there like a rule book?
That's the thing. There isn't a rule book,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not about following a set of rules. It's about developing this deep inner knowing, an intuition about what's in line with your higher purpose.
Okay, so it's more like developing your own internal compass,
Exactly.
guided by your connection to something bigger.
Yes. And that compass, it keeps evolving
Oh, that's interesting.
as you grow and learn.
So what might have been right action yesterday
Right.
could look totally different today.
Exactly. Because your understanding has grown.
So how do we actually cultivate that inner knowing?
Well, it's a process. It takes introspection, but also action.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness practices like meditation can be really helpful.
Oh, okay.
They help you quiet your mind
Yeah.
so you can tune into that deeper wisdom.
It's like creating space for your intuition to come through.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the action part.
Right. It's not enough to just think about it.
It's not enough to just think about it.
You have to actually do it.
You got to do it. You got to walk the walk.
So what are some ways this could show up in everyday life?
It could be little things. You know, choosing kindness over judgment when you're interacting with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking up for what's right, even when it's scary.
Yeah.
Making decisions that are good for the planet, even if it's inconvenient for you.
So it's about aligning your actions with your values.
Yes, even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard.
And you know, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like building a muscle.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
muscle memory for doing the right thing.
This is blowing my mind. I'm realizing now that this prayer is so much more than just words.
It is.
It's a whole new way of living in the world.
It is a new way of being.
Grounded in humility, surrender.
Yes,
A commitment to being your best self.
you said it perfectly. It's an invitation to step into your full potential.
Wow.
Not just as an individual,
Right.
but as part of something much bigger.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's actually really hopeful, you know?
It is
Thinking that by embracing these principles, we can make the world a better place.
a more just compassionate,
Yeah.
sustainable world.
That's definitely something worth striving for. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the 7th step prayer.
It has.
I know I'm walking away with a lot to think about.
I'm glad. And remember, it's a journey,
It is.
not a destination.
It is just the beginning.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.
That's it for this week's Deep Dive. We'll be back next time with a whole new topic. Until then, keep seeking that wisdom, and remember you've got this.
And may your journey be filled with courage and the unwavering support of something greater than yourselves.